supposed to run for office. I know. I got a name that's got 11 letters in it. Sounds that come out of parts of people's throats. Most people don't know they have. People like me are not supposed to run. But you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to stand here and tell you what you cannot have and should not fight for. I'm not going to tell you that the next election is the one that you should actually pay attention to because right now it's too dangerous. I'm not going to tell you that it's enough not to lose when there's so much we have yet to win. And I'm not going to tell you that there is ever the right time to deny a genocide or fail to fight for guaranteed health care for everybody. It shouldn't be this hard in the richest, most powerful country in the world to afford a second bag of groceries. It shouldn't be this hard to pay your rent or ever believe you could own a home. If you're under 40, stay in your home. It shouldn't be this hard. See a doctor, shouldn't be this hard. You work the same job tomorrow that you worked yesterday and yesterday. Shouldn't be this hard to have union representation at that job. Shouldn't be this hard to pay your taxes and know that that money is going to be spent on you and your kids instead of dropping bombs on other people and their kids. Now look, I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor because I could go 15 hours to my parents' native Egypt, or 15 minutes from where I grew up. And either way, I would travel 10 years difference in life expectancy. And I just don't think it should matter where you grow up or what you or your parents do for work. You deserve a long, healthy life in the United States of America. And I wanted to be a part of solving that. I went off to medical school with that goal, only to realize that the healthcare system that I was training to be a part of was not only not part of it, figuring out how to monetize people's lives because they get sick, rather than guaranteeing them the healthcare that they need. And so when I graduated medical school, like all of my other classmates, and yes, I did graduate medical school. Detroit's health department after it had been shut down when the state government forced it into that position. Got to lead Wayne County's Department of Health, Human and Veterans Services. And across our work, we did things like guarantee people glasses. Fix their microphones. Make sure that they weren't breathing polluted air or drinking leaded water. There were 100 vending machines all over our county, provided free health insurance for new small businesses, and eliminated medical debt. And I'm never going to forget the day sitting in my office the day that this administration froze federal funds, trying to figure out how to make sure that next week a family doesn't miss their WIC check and they still got food on the table for a mom and a baby. To make sure that patients don't go without basic health care or federally qualified health centers. To make sure that kids could get vaccines. And I get a notification on my phone that our current U.S. Senator is not seeking re-election. There's going to be an open U.S. Senate seat. And I had to ask myself, where is the fight for the public's health now? If I were to be elected, I'd be the first Democratic doctor elected to the U.S. Senate since 1969. First ever public health official elected to the U.S. Senate. If you've ever wondered why a man who works out in jeans is leading public health for our country, I think you probably could agree with me right now that we need a public health senator. presidential winner 3-1 more efficient than a guy who's currently in Congress and Donald McKinney's about to kick out of his seat. And I said something in that race that folks wrote right which is that Donald Trump is not himself the disease of our politics. He's the worst symptom of the disease of our politics. The disease is the system that allows big corporations, billionaires, special interests like APAC to buy and sell politicians in ways that leave them rigging the system against us. We pay more for all we have to buy, get paid less for the work we do, and watch as our tax dollars get misappropriated to buy tanks from other countries rather than schools for our own. I know what a union can do for people. And I know that the state of Michigan, the middle class, wouldn't be what they are without unions. Unions built the 40-hour work week. They built the weekend, even if I don't get any. They built the fact that our kids get to go to school instead of going to work. They built safe working environments. And they can build them again if we're willing to stand with unions in every sector of American life. And stand for unions in every sector of our lives. Stand with unions fighting for a fair wage, fighting for dignity at work, and fighting for their safety. Tax a billionaire at 8%. You know, they're still a billionaire. Because they make on average 10% a year. That's $100 million for doing absolutely nothing. So you tax them at 8%, they're only making $20 million for doing absolutely nothing. Wow, world's smallest violin. Maybe you could pay your fair share so that all of our kids could get good schools, get good health care. To tax billionaires their wealth. And I don't know about you all, but I don't pay my taxes thinking, man, it's going to be great if Israel gets another tank. When Egypt gets some more missiles, I pay my taxes thinking, man, I hope that they rebuild that school a couple miles away. I hope that they pave that pothole I have to drive over every single day. So I think it is high past time for us to end the outdated practice of sending unconditional foreign military aid to countries like Israel and Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. When I say something like that, folks will be like, well, it must be because he hates it. No. I love Judaism and I also love Palestinians and Palestinian history and culture. And you know what I love and I'm responsible for? Our own children here in America. And we cannot continue to subsidize. Now look, I'm proud of the work we did on medical debt. I really am. But medical debt should exist. shouldn't be a thing in the richest, most powerful country in the world. People shouldn't have to choose between getting their health care and their financial future. So we need to abolish all of our existing medical debt and pass Medicare for all so it can't exist again in the future. When you say that, you get some very serious people. They all have like sidebars for some reason. And very concerned looks on their faces. They look at you like this. Doctor, how are you going to pay for that? And you know what nobody ever asks a general drawing up war plans to go to war and say, Iran, General, how are you going to pay for that? So when I get to the U.S. Senate, I aim to be that person who asks, General, how are you going to pay for that? So here's the thing. We may or may not be fighting a war that's cost us to the tune of $300 to $500 billion, depending upon who you ask. $300 to $500 billion that have had the ultimate consequence of teaching the Iranian regime that they've got a vice grip on the world's energy supply and making it so that you got to pay $5 a gallon for gas. To get us to a negotiating position of memorandum of understanding that is worse than the new deal we had in place when Donald Trump took office the first time. There's more tax money. So how are we going to pay for health care? I don't know. Maybe we don't fight wars to the tune of $500 billion. And the other part of that is, you know, it is one thing for Republicans to have stupid-ass ideas about fighting wars. Like, they've been doing that for a long time. Every single time one of them gets to office, even the one who swore up and down he would never fight a war. And it's like catnip for them. They can't avoid it. They're like, a war? Never saw a war they didn't like. But here's the thing that frustrates me the most. When you ask Democrats about the war, you get these mealy-mouthed positions. You're like, well, I oppose the war because it's illegal. You're like, that's the only reason why? He didn't seek our authorization. So if he did, you would have authorized it? Well, he didn't seek our authorization. Like, you keep saying that. So if you were asked to fund the war, would you vote to fund the war? Well, it doesn't matter because you didn't seek our authorization. I'm like, how about you just say the obvious thing, which is that it is illegal and immoral and unjustifiable and wrong. There is one man who's been trying to get an American president to fight that war for the better part of 40 years. One man. And he's the prime minister of a foreign government. And he finally found a man dumb enough to do it. And so he did. But now ask yourself why Democrats couldn't find their conscience on this. Because the same reason we send our money abroad to do genocide and apartheid is the reason too many Democrats couldn't find their morals on this war. Because you've got a special interest with $100 million that is going to drop ad after ad after ad against anybody who is willing to express any level of moral clarity about either the genocide or the war. And you've been seeing their ads up and down your TV screen. $23 million that AIPAC has spent on this race. $23 million. And you know what? We're still winning. Money can't buy you a message. Money can't buy you the truth. Money can't buy you the people. Money can't even buy you personality, it turns out. weaponized by a certain president in direct opposition to the Constitution itself. They tell us that ICE is about immigration, ICE is about the southern border. I went to Minneapolis at the height of Project Metro Search. I wanted to see what it looked like when our government weaponizes itself against the Constitution, lays siege to a city in our own country. And what I saw was harrowing. But I tell you what, I went to public school and I learned maps. And I thought to myself, it's like -2 degrees out here. I must be on the wrong border. They told me that ICE was about the southern border, but I'm on the northern border. What gives? Because ICE has nothing to do with it. It never has, it never will. I was in New Jersey. I went to Delaney Hall there. ICE was feeding detainees who had been detained illegally congealed milk and maggot-infested food in a private prison. And all of this being done with $252 billion authorized of our taxpayer dollars. To do what? To weaponize our government against us, to normalize paramilitary force on our streets, to terrorize people, to shoot people in the face or the back of the head. And then they want to tell us, well, ICE can be reformed. ICE can be retrained. I mean, can you imagine if you were the person who had to draw up the training manual for the ICE officer who used a little boy as bait in detention? Can you imagine you're designing the PowerPoint slide? I was like, I got it. I'm just gonna put one of those signs with a slash in the middle on the board. Don't touch the board. I'm sorry, but if you are using a child as bait in detention, you have no business working for the federal government. ICE must be abolished. Was the fact that people in this country don't have health care. But you know what the thing that keeps me up the most right now is? The fact that we've got an existential technology that is being built without any guardrails at all. And now, I understand why people like Mike Rogers want to see this built. Why people like Mike Rogers want to put a data center in your backyard. You know, he says he's against gender-affirming care. But he's not against gender-affirming videos. So he wants to put that data center up so he can make a video pretending like his body looks like mine. But here's the thing about it. We cannot continue to allow big tech to roll us over, to tell us that all this AI that they're creating is in our own benefit when we see how fast it's accelerating with zero guardrails at all, empowering the richest people in the world at the risk of dissolving the whole social contract or decimating humanity itself. We need those guardrails. And right now there are two major AI super PACs doing war. One supporting one of my opponents, the other one supporting the other. And you know why they're not supporting me? Because I've never taken a dime for big tech, I've never taken a dime for one of the utilities, and I intend to work with like-minded colleagues to finally stand up to them, put some guardrails around AI, and hopefully protect the future and the ability for the next generation to get a job in the future. You've probably heard all the media now, they've taken to calling me dangerous. I wonder why they would call somebody who looks like me dangerous. That never happened before. But here's the thing, go ask the kids who didn't have glasses in Detroit if I'm dangerous. Go ask the folks who are living across the street from a smokestack in a corporation that we actually held accountable if I'm dangerous. Go ask the folks who didn't have life-saving Narcan if I'm dangerous. Go ask the folks who got a medical debt relief check in the mail if I'm dangerous. If you're somebody who needs government to work for you, I'm not dangerous. But if you're one of those people, a cop, a corporation, or a politician doing their bidding, and you're standing in the way of getting the people's work done, yes, I probably am dangerous. If you're APAC, I'm dangerous. If you're Chuck Schumer, I'm dangerous. I'm dangerous to him too. But if you're somebody who wants government to work for the people, by the people, then I hope that I can be your best friend in the USA. As you all well know, we're going to celebrate our country's 250th anniversary. And I gotta be honest with you, for a lot of folks, as you look back on those 250 years, there's so much about them that hasn't been right. But I also know that my life would have looked so different if I were born somewhere else. I know what America can do for people. I want America to do that for all of her kids. And America has one incredible capacity, and that's the ability to correct. There is no country in the world that is better at correcting herself. Sometimes it takes too long. Sometimes there are forces who keep us from correcting. But if this country has one gift, it's the ability to look history in the eye and say, we can do better next time. As we reflect on that 250th anniversary, all of the things have not been right. The question for us is not how do we make right the past. The question for us is how do we learn from the future to build the next 250. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men should say people are created equal. We have an opportunity in these next 250 to assure that we do the work of correcting. Because here's the thing about it. America doesn't correct on its own. America corrects when her people step up and put themselves into our democracy to do that correcting. And it happens in moments and movements and elections like this one. It happens because we decide that the past is not good enough, that the future has to be better. It happens because when we look our children in the eye, that we see that future that we want in them, and that we understand that we owe it to them to give them the next 250 that is more glorious than the last ones. So as we approach this birthday, I want us to be celebrating what can come next. And then deciding that we're going to put ourselves into the work of that correcting. So I'm asking you to join us. They think that they can buy this election. AI, APAC, AIPAC, Pharma, DTE, all of them. They think they can buy this election. They haven't met you. They don't understand that the people are willing to stand in the cut to build the future we deserve. So I'm asking you in the next 5 weeks that we have in front of us to put yourself in this work. It's not about how much time you have, it's about how much of yourself you put into time. To decide that you're going to give your time, your talent, your treasure to building something lasting. And for some of us, it's hard to imagine that things could be better. But I'll tell you, I got 2 little girls at home, 8 and 3. And they are the manifestation of the future for me. And I think a lot about what I owe them. And what they'll ask me in time. When they learn about this era of our history and they say, what did you do? I hope I can tell them what I did. I hope we can tell them what we did. That we fought the righteous fight. That we invested in their future. That we corrected in our country. That we invested in one another. That we put ourselves in the cut, that we stood in the breach, and that we understood that we did it for them. Because America is nothing if not her people and her future. And they deserve so much more. So friends, my name is Abdul. I hope that we can do that.